Rar. Rar. Rar.
Fuck, this is probably gonna get me cancelled. So welcome to Frankie's World, and this is going to be a bit of a waffle video because there's nothing really much interesting going on at the moment. So I'm actually on a... Oh! I made it! Right. I'm actually on a mission for the missus because she's feeling a bit under the weather, and that means I have to make a quick trip to Minute to the pharmacy because the one in the village is closed right now. Pick her up some Albus oil, some night nurse, and some strawberry flavored strepsils. So, the season for rallies has been winding down, and maybe in December I'll have something of a ride out to show you, but the weather has definitely turned into winter gear. I'm having my summer gloves on at the moment, but already kind of regretting that I didn't get the bigger winter ones on. So, what else is new? Well, with the days being shorter of daylight, I've done a little bit more reading because I like to do a bit of reading. One of the books I picked up was one that I read like a good few years ago, called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. It's interesting and thought-provoking. And it talks a lot about quality and science and art and motorcycle maintenance. So, but especially that quality aspect that kind of like fits into the halls of rhetoric and philosophy. That got me thinking. So I'm not going to give you a synopsis of the whole book. I'd say like pick up a copy and read it at your leisure. Because it is kind of like a captivating story. Another book that I just picked up, basically just released, is from Professor Robert Sapolsky. It's called Determined: A Life Without Free Will. And that actually goes into the subject of what is actually free will and what does neurobiology and all the science behind it tell us about free will and how much free will we actually have. Now, I like Robert Sapolsky. I watched his lectures on the internet and I always found it quite captivating. Oh, the lycra louts are out. Let's see if I can past them safely. Yeah. Alright. So where was I? Robert Sapolsky, yeah. So he's a pretty clever guy. And he's supposed to have like a really awful time dealing with depression, and that seems something that plagues intelligent people a lot. Jesus, man. Alright. Anyway, as I say, I follow his lectures online. You can do that for free. It's very interesting. So I'm reading his book now about free will and his ideas, and it kind of like touches philosophy and science and kind of puts everything together. And he says some thought-provoking things. Now, I'm only like 10% into the book, and I'm not sure if I agree with everything he says, but I'm willing to hear him out. You know, and that is basically how I'm used to educating myself. That even if somebody says something that my first reaction is like, nah man, I don't see it that way, but I'll keep on reading. Because he also says plenty of stuff that kind of makes sense to me. And I mean, like it's true, like our temperament and things we decide to do, it has a lot to do with our upbringing, our DNA, our culture, the mythos of religion that might be part of our culture or not part of our culture, and even the way that we evolved. Factors and some interesting experiments on monitoring your brain of activity when you make a decision. Turns out your brain already made the decision before you realized you have exercised your free will. Pretty interesting, huh? Oh, take it easy here. It's been a while that I've been on this road. And I'm always in the assumption that there could be something on right around the corner that is new, like a new pothole or a bunch of wet leaves. But I'm digressing. So yeah, free will. Reading. And challenging thoughts. I think that is pretty healthy. But when I compare it to the world as it presents itself through media, and not just only social media, but media in general, kind of makes me thinking about this whole free will thing. And also about that quality thing that was mentioned in the book I've been rereading about Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Because to me it seems that there is just like so much inconsistency. Now what do I mean with that? Now, you could argue, if you look at my 58 years of life, especially in my younger years, I was quite left oriented, and I think most young people are, and I think that's healthy. You know, like you kind of want to challenge the authority in your culture, and that is basically how progression takes place. All right, man, you're in a hurry. Go on then. So, I always like kind of kept that like kind of leftish vibe on me, but I don't know, as of lately, I'm not sure. And that could be because the years are counting now, and the older you get, the more conservative you become. And that's actually something that Professor Robert Sapolsky argues. So it's a biological thing to start thinking more conservative. But what is actually conservative about my ideas is that there are more leftish kind of noticing or notions from the 80s and the 90s. So there you have it. That actually kind of says that today's progressiveness is tomorrow's conservatism. Right, do my shopping now. So, shopping done. So, where was I? Oh yeah. Today's progressiveness could be tomorrow's, what do you call it? Jesus. Words are hard for Frankie. Conservatism, yeah, that's it, the big dirty word of the moment. And it's not that I mind new ideas now, but from my old-fashioned leftism, kind of required, you know, a good bit of critical thinking. Of challenging ideas, even if they come from your own camp. You know, not just blindly running with it because, like in the 80s, man, we had some causes in the 80s. I mean, we did the usual protesting against clubbing baby seals. But we were more worried about nuclear weapons, getting rid of them. just can't help of finding some inconsistencies in those ideas. I mean, let's chase the bullet through the church now. You know, when we're talking about identity politics, saying that you can identify as whatever, you know, that's fine. I got no problem with that, but this need to have this validated is I always was in the depression. You validate yourself and fuck everybody else. You know, the old punk mentality. Now that might be just a minor thing, minor observation, but I think the biggest thing is with all this talk about identity and having this freedom to be whoever you want to be, it kind of focuses on a very minute aspect of being a human being. You know, it all revolves around what gender you want to be and how do you want to express that self. And it feels to me like everybody's beating that dead horse because, like, in the 90s, they already figured out, like, hey, you know, when it comes to gender, there's your biological expression. And there's actually a grayscale where you can be on in how do you feel and want to express your biological gender. Ah, fuck, this is probably going to get me cancelled. Now, who gives a fuck? But anyway, what surprises me is that people are willing to fight tooth and nail for being your genuine self and you know, being all non-binary, but when it comes to expressions of other aspects of your humanity, like your thoughts on philosophy and politics, and suddenly the tolerance for your self-expression is quite binary. You either have to prescribe to this very precise list of opinions, or you are the enemy. There's absolutely no room for any gray area, for any spectrum where you could be on a whole list of different issues of what's going on in the world. So I kind of noticed that, like, the most people that I hang with, they're a bit similar like me. And I often disagree with them and debate on lots of things, but like they apply that critical thinking and there is that respect. That allows people being their genuine self and their genuine expression. And I can't choice in everything, in philosophy and acceptance of science, cultures and laws, has to comply to this binary choice. At the same time, you're called upon to reject the binary system. I don't know, maybe I'm getting too old for this. Anyways, you can tell that things for me to talk about are usually, about bikes and all that. It's the kind of thing that I have to resort to, the deep philosophical thoughts. But to be honest, this is just part of Frankie's world, and when I'm out on the bike and I'm not waffling about some video or telling you about this or that, about a rally or about what's going on with my bikes. The time that I spend is puttering around, and even if it's just like going on an errand, it's that freedom of thought, of ideas, reflections. It is what I think is what I get the most out of in enjoying driving a motorcycle. It's definitely therapy. I mean, I'll make no secret about it. I had my share of therapy. There's this ADSR therapy, where it says like it kind of works like having your motor functions in your brain activated while you're facing anxiety and all that. And that is exactly what happens when you're on the motorbike. You're fully engaged, you're looking around, keeping an eye on traffic, switching gears, adjusting throttle, coming onto a corner, making assessments, and at the same time, after a little trip. It doesn't have to take long. So I guess this video is just basically an example of how my motorbike therapy works. That I do, you can agree or disagree, really. It's all good with me, but I do think that being out on the road does give you that time for some perspective.